nearer normal towards the south. Looking ahead to Thursday, and again, it's a bit of a northwest-southeast split when it comes to cloud amounts, so staying cloudy and grey towards the southeast. Most places having another largely dry day, though. And the mostly dry weather continues as we go through the end of the week and into the weekend, but it is going to be pretty cloudy for most of us, and we're going to see our temperatures dropping as well. Enjoy the rest of your evening. Bye-bye.
There will be a light breeze in the morning, leading to a warm front. Boxed heat pumps, sponsors of weather on GB News.
You could be joining the Great British Giveaway list of winners with your chance to grab a fantastic £50,000 in tax-free cash.
Hi, I'm Angela from Wigan and I won £30,000 with the Great British Giveaway. I'd say to people who want to enter or are wondering whether to enter to do it, it happens to people like me.
For another chance to win, text cash to 63232. One entry costs £2 plus one standard network rate message, or text bonus to 63232. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start from just £2. You can call 0903 681 3232. Calls cost £2 plus your network access charge, or post your name and number to GB10 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 6 p.m. on the 31st of January. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
GB News Breakfast. Every day from 6 a.m.
TikTok chefs, Instagram chefs, that they put children off or young people off of cooking because it's so expertly done they can't do it. No, my young lad, he's 17, he is amazing in the kitchen. Oh, he is. He's amazing in the kitchen. And he gets it all off TikTok. He comes down, he can put burgers, wraps, stews, curries, sauces, and the smells in the kitchen. I said, where'd you get these? Oh, just TikTok, I'm trying it out. And it's just amazing the things that he can conjure up. So for some people, it might be... it's an inspiration for him. So they're saying that it's intimidation. For my boy, it's an inspiration. They say it's entertainment. For my boy, it's an infomercial. I watch him doing his stuff. At that stage, I could do baked beans on toast and knock up a salad. That was it. But my boy can do all sorts of stuff.
It makes it accessible as well, doesn't it? Because lots of people say, like, you need an education to be in the kitchen, or you need to go find yourself loads of cookbooks. But you don't.
No.
You go on your phone now.
Well, I mean, like, all the spices, sesame oil. I mean, I'm amazed at the stuff that he does. So it's encouraging. All you just need is a kitchen well-stocked and have a go. And understand that failure is actually the route to learning. I mean, he's made mistakes, he's stuck stuff in the bin, but that young man, I am amazed at some of the stuff he does.
I don't mind cooking at all. It's cleaning up that I have the problem with. Dawn, let's talk about sex.
Can I just say there are things called restaurants, by the way? Just put that one. Oh, my hell, I don't even know where the kitchen is.
OK.
GB News, the People's Channel.
It's 9 p.m. I'm Patrick Christys. Tonight,
every penny we get will be used to help victims and survivors to be heard and to fight for justice in any way that we can. And I give you my word for that.
thank you very much, everybody. We have now raised more than 250 grand, actually, for the Maggie Oliver Foundation to show that the victims of rape gangs, that you really care about them. You can go to gofundme.com/stop grooming gangs now to donate. We're going to be hearing from a brave survivor later in the show. In other news, two-thirds of illegal immigrants with ankle tags have cut them off and they're now on the run. Is detention the only answer? Also,
is the Hamlet of our time. They promised the electorate much while pouring the poison into their ear. To go or not to go, that is now a question.
Rachel Reeves there laughing as she makes you poorer.
I invite you all to join this government of service.
Oh yeah, government of service. Starmer's anti-corruption minister has resigned amid a massive corruption row. Plus,
we're spending how many millions a day on hotels? Put it into the NHS.
We've got incest nurses and now we've got corridor nurses. What on earth is going on at the NHS? And
quick as you can.
Good lad. British pub culture is under threat. You could now be banned from talking about immigration, trans, or even cracking an inappropriate joke. On my panel tonight, it's columnist and broadcaster Esther Krakow, GBNews superstar Alex Armstrong, and journalist Jonathan Liss. Oh, and can you tell me, please, what's going on here? Get ready, Britain. Here we go. A transsexual, an illegal migrant and a climate denier walk into a pub. Next.
Very good evening to you at just after 9 o'clock. The top story tonight. Rachel Reeves has been grilled in Parliament today after her trip to China sparked political outrage. She defended that visit, though, highlighting agreements she reached with the world's second largest economic power.
The opportunity to make working people off by making Britain better off. That is the mandate that this government has, and this is what we will deliver.
Well, despite calls for her sacking, the Prime Minister, Sir Keir Starmer, insists she will remain as Chancellor until the next election. But the Shadow Chancellor, Mel Stride, slammed Reeves for leaving financial turmoil here at home, calling it a crisis made in Downing Street.
To go or not to go, that is now a question. The Prime Minister will be damned if he does, but he will surely be damned if he does not. The British people deserve better.
Chancellor of the Exchequer.
Political news tonight. Tulip Siddiq has stepped down as Treasury Minister amid mounting pressure from an anti-corruption investigation. The Labour MP is facing allegations of embezzlement involving her family in Bangladesh, where her aunt served as Prime Minister. She's also under investigation here in the UK over properties linked to her aunt's allies. But despite insisting she's done nothing wrong, she said staying in the role could have been a distraction. It's now the second resignation in just 6 months, raising further questions about Sir Keir Starmer's leadership. And the Shadow Home Secretary Chris Philp has weighed in on Tulip Siddiq's resignation. He's accused Keir Starmer of being far too slow to act.
I think the Prime Minister was far too slow to act in this case. The independent advisers' reports say there are still a number of unanswered questions about the origin of some of these extremely expensive properties that Tulip Siddiq somehow purchased. She had no visible means to do so. She herself claims to have forgotten certain information about how she came to own them. There are lots of unanswered questions about whether these properties are connected to Tulip Siddiq's aunt's corrupt regime in Bangladesh.
Well, in a first-of-its-kind operation, 3 men have been arrested in Iraq for allegedly running a global people smuggling network, moving migrants here to the UK and across Europe. One of the men is 38 years old, accused of coordinating the transportation of migrants via yachts. The other 2 men, one in their 40s, the other 30s, are both accused of processing financial transactions and gathering migrants for that network. The group are believed to have links to a UK-based smuggler jailed last year for facilitating small boat crossings. And the Princess of Wales has revealed her cancer is now in remission. In an emotional Instagram post earlier, she thanked staff at the Royal Marsden Hospital for their exceptional care, saying it's a relief to be in remission after chemotherapy. Princess Catherine also shared that adjusting to life after a cancer diagnosis does take time, but expressed hope for a fulfilling year ahead. The message, signed Catherine, also thanked supporters for their kindness over the past year. That's the news on GB News. I'll be back with you in an hour. Now, though, it's over to Patrick.
For the very latest GB News direct to your smartphone, sign up to News Alerts by scanning the QR code or go to gbnews.com/alerts.
A radical Islamist, a Pakistani grooming gang and a transsexual paedophile walk into a pub. Well, they might be allowed to, but you're not allowed to talk about them. There is an absolutely mental new law set to come into effect that could ban pub goers from talking about controversial topics in case it might cause offence to pub staff. Labour's new pub banter crackdown, or workers' rights charter to give it its official name, could mean that bar staff who overhear your conversations about things like trans rights or grooming gangs could claim that you're harassing them with your words and they can boot you out. So the Equality and Human Rights Commission has warned that the proposed new law, due to come into force next year, could curtail freedom of expression and be applied to overheard conversations. A pub conversation could count as harassment if it is, quote, unwanted conduct that has the purpose or effect of violating a recipient's dignity or creating an intimidating, hostile, degrading, humiliating or offensive environment. Well, if that conversation is about so-called protected characteristics like gender, then you, my friend, are in double trouble. This is an absolute farce. The pub is where people go to talk about this kind of stuff. The pub is where people go to escape the kind of cretinous Guardianistas that police our speech everywhere else. We're going to end up in a situation where a bloke in his 70s who's been drinking 5 pints a night in the same pub for 40 years cracks a joke about his wife's driving, and some 20-year-old with bright blue hair and a just-up oil vest kicks him out and bars him for life. What is it about people on the left banning free speech? Up in Scotland, Humza Yousaf wanted to criminalise people for stuff they say in their own home. I mean, you can picture it now, can't you? Christmas dinner, Grandad's at the table, surrounded by several generations of his own family, and he makes a comment about the pro-Palestine badge his university student granddaughter has chosen to wear. And boom, the police kick the front door in, Grandad's in handcuffs and he's up before the magistrate in the morning. Labour already wanted to ban smoking in pub gardens, but I think now we know why, don't we? It was actually just in case people hung around outside the pub, caught a glimpse of the fact that the Holiday Inn next door was now a migrant hotel, and then dared to start a conversation about it. Is it any wonder more than 400 pubs closed last year? 34 pubs shut every single month. Here's an idea. If you don't like hearing people who've had a few pints speak about controversial issues, then don't work in a bloody pub. Here's another idea. If Labour is so worried about left-wing snowflakes being offended by what they hear, then why doesn't Keir Starmer stop being so completely useless? Stop giving away sovereign territory and making us pay £9 billion for it. Stop hammering farmers or freezing pensioners to death. Stop calling us all racist. That'd be nice, wouldn't it? Stop taxing the living daylights out of us. I find those things quite offensive, to be honest. Do you remember when Jeremy Clarkson said this?
Would you invite Keir to your pub, Keir Starmer, the Prime Minister?
No, he's banned. He's the first person to be banned. He's actually on a board in the hall. He's banned.
Why? What have you got against him?
Hello? I thought you were running a news operation.
And he was right, wasn't he? And so was this guy. Today, we are all this man.
That man is not allowed in my pub. Get out of my pub. Go on. Calm yourself down. Get out of my pub.
Here's a message for the left. Save your political correctness for the poxy vegan wine bars of Islington and leave our traditional British boozers alone. Let's get the thoughts of my panel. We've got political commentator Alex Armstrong. We've also got journalist and broadcaster Esther Krakow and journalist Jonathan Liss. So I'll start with you. I mean, seriously, are we going to end up in a situation where some numpty with blue hair overhears a conversation about a bloke in a woman's toilets and everyone has to go home?
That's a very specific scenario. Have you thought
I've
a lot
been
about
there,
this?
Esther.
Have you?
What, in the women's toilet?
Oh, thank you. Yeah, go on.
Well, look, but what you're highlighting there is the incompatibility with this new sort of employment bill and the actual reality of the workplace. And the bigger question it draws is obviously Labour's priorities, right? They're not talking about creating more jobs. They're trying to over-police the few jobs that currently exist. I mean, there was talks of the fact that Labour's NI hikes have basically killed off any job growth for 2025, and they're not addressing that. Instead, they're trying to make the workplace more unbearable for employers with all this red tape. The reality is, if you work in the entertainment industry, for example, or you work in nightlife, you're going to have drunk customers that will say things that you may find offensive. Does that mean that every person that works in a nightclub or in a bar or in a pub is just supposed to be unemployed? It's completely unworkable. And these are the kinds of things that you say their heart's in the right place. I don't think their heart or their brain, if you can find it, is in the right place or anywhere to be found.
Sorry, but
it's just unworkable.
No one has the right to not be offended, Alex. And the pub is a sanctuary. The pub is a safe haven.
That's what you have a problem with. It's the pub, isn't it?
Well, it is. It's a sanctuary where you can go and you can have a few pints.
You're not bothered about the clubs
and
the cruise ships.
Say stuff that you might not always say in front of your missus.
Yeah, Nigel Farage got this right earlier on today.
That's politically correct.
Nigel Farage said they're like little parliaments. They're where we go to discuss the nation's problems, to get it off of our chests and to release a little bit. And I think he's absolutely right. But I think what's absolutely tragic about this is that it shows again Labour has forgotten where it came from. It's meant to be the party of the working classes, the party of the man down at the pub, the woman down at the pub. Where have they gone with it? They've gone full Orwellian, full Big Brother, which is meant to be a TV show, not how you run a country. And now we're getting to a situation where you could just be speaking to your granddad, like you said, in your pub, and someone behind the bar goes, I'm calling the police.
Why does that stuff such a problem with free speech? We've seen it up in Scotland, where you can be at the dinner table and all of a sudden Humza Yousaf wants to kick your front door in. And now we've got the
Where did he say that, Patrick? Come on,
criminalising people around their kitchen tables.
No one is talking about this at all. This is just a blown-up story that has no basis in any foreseeable reality. It is totally, it's totally unworkable. It's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. It says in the story,
right about that.
It says the definition of what constitutes harassment: unwanted conduct that has the purpose or effect of violating the recipient's dignity or creating an intimidating, hostile.
It's subjective. You could overhear something that you might find offensive. I suspect you are now.
I could never be offended by anything you say because I know you do it with such good humour.
You would turf me out of my
I could never turf you out of your pub.
Why are we obsessed with the pub? I mean, this could happen in a club or, like, on a cruise ship.
Yeah, because I hope no one gets turfed out of that, to be honest.
The pub is like, British tradition, British culture. Go down the pub, have a chat with your mates.
You guys have some very unsavoury conversations.
You don't think it's...
We do, but that's the whole point. There are little safe havens.
The point of this is it is very subjective. So a conversation that some people might find about just talking about what's in the news right now, which is things like giving away some sovereign territory or grooming gangs or whatever, right? That is something that someone might find problematic.
For example, if you have an opinion, an adverse opinion on the Israel-Gaza conflict, for example, which is highly incendiary, that could count as some sort of harassment. Look, this is clearly unworkable, but I think the bigger issue is Labour's priorities. They're focusing on all this red tape for employers, and they're not talking about creating more jobs and making employers more interested in investing in the UK. That's, for me, a problem.
Let's bring it back to the issue at hand, because I think that, as with a lot of these stories, there's a kernel of truth and it kind of gets blown up into a cultural issue where actually I think that we could probably meet in the middle. I think it's completely fine for people to have views that are completely different from mine and to talk about them robustly in a pub. And I enjoy going to the pub as much as the next person. I know that your viewers will think I'm some vegan who stays at home, goes to bed at 8 o'clock. But I actually do enjoy myself. Okay. And I enjoy going to the pub. But here's the thing. If you are going to be in that pub and shouting things that are deeply offensive and which a reasonable person would think were offensive, such as using racial slurs or directing arguments at strangers in a way that is making people feel uncomfortable, it's completely fine for the owner of that pub or for a barman or whatever to say, do you think you can keep it down a bit?
It's about the staff of the pub. So it's not... This is the thing. So it's not about what the other punters might find. Now, punters, in my experience, tend to sort that stuff out themselves quite often in the cobbles, or in the car park, which I'm not advocating. But it's about... Let's say you're in a Wetherspoons,
what have you been doing?
You're in a Wetherspoons, whatever time, and it's, a bit rough and ready or whatever. It's not about the clientele. It's about the one person behind the pub who works there, who finds offence on something, and can you turf you out?
You're absolutely right. And that bar person, for example, could take the pub to court, the landlord to court over it. Therefore, the pub would probably have to close down. And I think what you were saying...
They don't earn enough.
Well, exactly. But what, Jonathan, you were saying is that, OK, well, let's feet in the middle. It's not going to be so serious. We've seen free speech laws weaponised in this country, so it's all very...
Normally against
well
the left,
to say,
actually.
oh, you know what? Come on, nonsense. It's okay to say, we should meet in the middle, we should be sensible with these policies, but they don't. They get weaponised. Some crazy dictator comes in to Parliament on some sort of landslide majority and starts locking people up for tweets while we've got crime rising through.
Well, Alex,
That's
come
the
on, the Prime Minister's not locked anyone up because we have a separation of powers in this country, as you know perfectly well. So the courts do things, and the Labour government did not introduce any new legislation before the courts sentenced the rioters to jail. If you have any complaints about this, Patrick, kindly direct them to the last Conservative government under whose tenure these laws were actually made.
That's absolutely true.
Is this rule now under Labour, this workers' rights bill, actually giving workers too many rights?
Well, it'll just make them unemployable. I mean, you can't. Workers can sue you from day one for unfair dismissal, but yet they're also saying, but we're going to have a mandatory probation period. So then what's the point? If they're in a probation period, why should they be able to... Technically, you're not really their employer yet until you become a full employee with all the rights. And they're turning us into France, which I don't know how familiar you are with employment rights. You had, like, sort of 30-year-old people with PhDs that were basically interns because you had French companies that were reluctant to make people actual full employees, give them full, contracts. So they would hire them for a year, basically hire them on slave wages to make sure they fit the bill, and then give them a proper job. They can't rent or anything like that because they don't have a proper job employment contract. We don't want to be in a situation where we make employing people so unattractive and impossible. And this goes back to my point about Labour's priorities. They talk about growing the economy. This is part of it. This is about making it obviously, there's a balance to be struck. But I'm sorry, we're not sending people up chimneys and expecting them to inhale asbestos, like from morning, breakfast, lunch and dinner. We have a reasonable balance. And I think this is one of those things that tips things over the edge.
Yeah, I just find it absolutely ridiculous. I do think this is the slow, creeping, asphyxiating hand of the state in all of our lives, but there you go. Anyway, well, it's time now for our greatest and biggest Great British giveaway. It's your chance to win 50 grand in cold, hard, tax-free cash, which you could choose to spend at the pub. Here's how you can win it.
It's the biggest, greatest Great British giveaway so far, with your chance to win a spectacular £50,000 in tax-free cash. 2025 could be amazing, with plenty of treats, holidays and fun on the horizon. How would you enjoy that cash? £50,000 will make someone our biggest ever winner. For another chance to win £50,000 cash, text cash to 63232. One entry costs £2 plus one standard network rate message, or text bonus to 63232. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start from just £2. You can call 0903 681 3232. Calls cost £2 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB10 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 6 p.m. on the 31st of January. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
OK, good luck, everybody. Coming up, first they recruited specialist incest nurses, and now the NHS wants to help people in corridors by recruiting specialist corridor nurses. What on earth is really going on in our health service? But first, the Home Office has been left red-faced after it emerged that 1 in 6 migrants with an electronic tag have gone missing. So do you trust Yvette Cooper's department to track them all down? I certainly don't. And shouldn't we just deport them all in the first place? Joining us now is political commentator Sunil Sharma, going head-to-head with the activist Aisha Ali Khan. Stay tuned.
This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
And fashionistas are keen to see which new trends are set to hit the catwalk.
Well, our next guest is very well placed to share her predictions with us after being a contestant on hit ITV series Dress the Nation, as well as being an upcycling and sewing consultant.
Wow. Joining us now is Tendai Murewe. I want to go back to you appearing on the ITV Dress the Nation.
Right.
Tell us about that experience. What was that like?
Oh, that was one of my highlights as a upcycling consultant. I learned to sew in my kitchen 5 years ago. And then, during COVID, just making masks. Then the next thing I was on a Dress the Nation, making dresses in front of TV. Yeah, it was just incredible. I think we all had all these clothes that we have, but we don't know what to do with them. So mainly I started with men's jackets, taking off the sleeves and putting it like a print on.
I've tried this. I've tried taking off my sleeves before. I now have about 3 jackets with no sleeves. I never managed to put them back on.
You need to come to a workshop.
You
need to come to a workshop.
I need an upcycling consultant. 2025, what can we expect fashion-wise?
I think bold prints are back. People are loving. I think you walk on the streets in frollals and oversized men's jackets.
So the exact opposite. We have drastically underperformed this morning. You're just saying not like us.
We just woke up this morning and thought it's winter, it's cold, it's grey.
Grey, miserable.
Is that not the way to go?
No, it is. It's still, I think because fashion is expressive. It's whatever you want to express yourself. You know?
GB News, the People's Channel.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more. Whether it's breaking royal news, Will, please bring us up to date, or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons.
Very, very curious.
We bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We're proud to be GB News, the People's Channel, and as you know, we always love to hear your views. Now, there's a new way of getting in touch with us at gbnews.com/yoursay. By commenting, you can be part of a live conversation and join our GB News community. You can even talk to me, Bev Turner, or any of the members of the GB News family.
Thank you, Britain.
Thank you for watching.
Thank you for listening.
Thanks for subscribing.
Thank you for your support.
It's you that make us the People's Channel.
As we reflect on our journey so far, we're filled with immense gratitude.
You mean the world to us. We couldn't have reached this point without you.
As a very special thank you, we are giving you the chance to win one of 50 GB News thank you boxes. They're worth £50 each.
For full terms and conditions, and to enter, just go to gbnews.com/thank you.
Welcome back to Patrick Christys Tonight, and I would just like to say a massive thank you to everyone who has donated to my fundraiser so far for the Maggie Oliver Foundation. Thanks to you, we've raised £257,346 in pretty much bang on 24 hours, which is unbelievable. You can go to gofundme.com/stop grooming gangs. This is all to show the brave victims and survivors of Britain's rape gangs epidemic that we actually care about them and that we can try to get them the help that they so desperately need, whether that's through legal support or therapy and all of that. There's a QR code on your screen now, so you can hover your phone over that. I mean, honestly, I had no idea that it would explode to this extent. So thank you so much, everybody. And later on in the show, we're going to be hearing from a brave survivor who's going to tell her story, and she's going to tell you exactly how the Maggie Oliver Foundation helps so many people, and that is exactly where your money is going. It's gofundme.com/stop grooming gang. So more on that later, but thank you, everybody. It felt so emotional last night when I finished the show when we'd raised that amount of money. It just shows how much you really care, so thank you. But before we talk about that in more detail, it's time for the head-to-head, because we're going to be talking about this. Do you trust the Home Office to track down missing illegal immigrants? It's time for the head-to-head. Look, this is ridiculous. So the Home Office has been left humiliated after it emerged that Yvette Cooper's department has lost contact with 2/3 of illegal migrants who had been electronically tagged. Under a pilot scheme involving 1,000 migrants, the ankle tags were supposed to help the Home Office track their movements and ensure they reported fortnightly to immigration officials. But after 500 days, 2/3 of those originally fitted with tags were no longer in contact with officials, and 1 in 6 has completely absconded. This comes after it emerged that Albanian criminals and migrants have been demonstrating how to remove ankle tags on social media site TikTok. So tonight I am asking, Do you trust the Home Office to track down those illegal migrants? Go to gbnews.com/yoursay, tweet us at GBNews, go and vote in our poll. Going head-to-head now, though, our political commentator Sunil Sharma and Labour activist Aisha Ali Khan. Thank you very, very much. Sunil, do you think that Labour have got a cat-and-house chance of finding these people?
Absolutely not. I think with the Home Office, not even being critical of Labour, just the Home Office in the last, you could argue in the decade, have shown they're not really fit for purpose. Let's look at the last year. Earlier on this year, early on last year even, we saw a report, more than dozens of Home Office staff under criminal investigation for immigration crimes, fraud, drug abuses. We saw not that long ago, actually November time, they spent more than £10,000. This is just the staff, the research strategy team in the Gherkin on a dinner. They, a few weeks ago, we now know that the 3-day office, them going into the office, that was their usual plan, has now been further relaxed. We've seen a report on them talk about how they need to make their socials more inclusive. So that's been widely talked about. They want 50% of their meetups to be alcohol-free. This is not a serious organisation. When you look at this is what the resources, this is what they're thinking about, this is the time spent. These are not clearly not a serious organisation in terms of what they've done. Staff has more than doubled since 2009. And we're at the point where asylum seekers are not being traced. I don't see how
they're not, are they? And Aisha, look, the fact is that 2/3 of this lot have cut their ankle tags off. They've gone missing. We probably don't know who half of them are. We don't know if half of them have got criminal backgrounds. I mean, they could be living in people's gardens, for goodness sake, Aisha.
First of all, Patrick, we've got to be transparent here. The article that you're quoting from has appeared in the Telegraph today, and they've already changed the headline since this afternoon. The actual article that has the information, if you can go on the Sky website, Sky News website, you will find that this project involved 1,200 asylum seekers, mainly Albanian, because this was around the time. And the dates, let me just point this out to you, Patrick, and viewers as well. June 2022 to December 2023. This was a pilot project involving 1,200 asylums that ran for about 18 months. And it's only today, last few days, that the report has been released to the public.
So are Labour going to track them down, Aisha? This is it. Are they going to track them down? They're on the run, aren't they?
This was a pilot scheme set up under the previous government, and it was actually stopped under the previous government because they realised it wasn't working. So they thought there's no point. The compliance rate was the same as though was a 2% difference between those who had tags attached to their ankles and those who didn't. Now, 2/3 is a large number. Obviously, we're talking about 400 people of the cohort that were wearing tags. It wasn't the fact that there were, obviously some had tampered and tried to remove the tags, but it was also the non-charging of those tags, which is also a breach, by the way. So this idea that we were going to tag these asylum seekers, these migrants and so on, see what they were going, see what they were doing.
I mean, I would love to see the absconding figures from migrant hotels, by the way. I would absolutely love to see if those figures ever see the light of day, because I guarantee you that they won't. And Sunil, just on that.
I agree, Patrick, I agree. We need to know how much money the Tories wasted on their ridiculous policy.
We need to detain people and deport them would be another way of looking at it, to be fair, Aisha.
We need new strategies, we need solid strategies, and we need to actually have viable legal routes to help people who want to enter the country do so properly, and allow people who are going to come here and make a difference.
Well, we have a pseudo-legal route at the minute, which is called the English Channel, which I think people need to actually sort out. But Sunil, just on this, Channel 4, actually, to their credit, did a documentary, which was a kind of hot take on 24 hours in police custody, which involved an immigration centre. And what it showed was at this immigration centre, a load of illegal migrants and asylum seekers took all the clothes and sports equipment that was on offer, then legged it, went missing for about 8 days around Bedfordshire, and then came back when they got into trouble with some Albanian gangs. So this is not a particularly good setup that we've got, is it? Do we need to stop thinking that if we allow these people to free roam, as it were, that the vast majority of them are actually ever going to come back?
Yeah, I think regardless of Tory mistakes, Labour mistakes. The rhetoric has to be stronger. I don't think this government, previous government, have been strong enough in terms of rhetoric. When you have a strong rhetoric, it's seen that in the US. When you have a strong rhetoric, strong leadership, the amount of people that are prepared to come by boat, by a border decreases. If they know, or if they're being welcomed with open arms, then of course more and more are going to keep coming, and they're going to keep staying in this country because they know sooner or later the taxpayer will feed the bill for it. The rhetoric has to be a lot stronger. We're not going to get that from Sir Keir Starmer anytime soon. So I think that's a serious problem. That's the easiest first deterrent, by being strong, by basically saying you come to this country illegally, we're going to send you right back. I don't think that's really clear enough from any of the Labour Party at the moment, Labour officials. But I think it just shows how we are in terms of when it comes to the Home Office in particular. It's just not fit for purpose. Like, regardless of who's been in power, we've got different government now, we've got different leaders under Toryship. It's not fit for purpose.
Do you honestly, in your heart of hearts, Aisha, believe that the vast majority of these illegal migrants, if they are given half a chance, are going to just stick around and go through the asylum system for years? Or do you think that they are just going to leg it?
I think if we had a system that was robust and actually dealt with cases a lot quicker, there'd be an answer. And once you filled your asylum application, then they'd get removed quickly and efficiently. I'm a daughter of migrant workers. My father came here in the 50s. My granddad and my father came here in the 50s and 60s. We worked in the factories and the mills around Bradford. We've contributed, myself, my brothers, we've all gone to university. I'm a professional, my brothers are professionals. So it's not this kind of demonisation of people that are coming here and we just want to take advantage of the situation.
The family came here legally, though, didn't they?
Of course, we absolutely came here.
There is a difference there.
Legally, as Pakistanis as well. But I do think, Patrick,
I'll come to you, Sonal. Sorry, I should finish, then we'll go back to you.
So I just want to say we've had weeks and weeks of this rhetoric around migrants, around Pakistani grooming, and etc., etc. And this is really distressing for people who are law-abiding, they're conscientious, they've lived absolutely normal lives, they've contributed, they've helped, they've worked alongside children and families as well. And I think it's really, really dangerous, especially obviously the article that I've referred to in the Telegraph, to imply that Britain is being overrun with migrants that are coming here, they're disappearing, they're going to roam the streets. It's really dangerous. And I think we really have to be mindful of that.
I'll let you come in quickly on this, and we'll keep it brief there, please.
Yeah, so just going to the Irish, both my parents were migrants as well. They came here legally, and when you come in illegally, it's bad for legal migrants. So I think that should be off the bat. And I think we're talking about what's going on in the news recently in terms of the impact of when we talk about migration. I think when we're talking about what's really unfair and what's nice is those innocent girls who didn't get their cases properly processed because of the background of certain people. So I just don't like this kind of argument. I think illegal migration is horrible for legal migrants. It's unfair. It doesn't fit the purpose, and it's actually just a deterrent for everyone. So I don't think that should be something that we should really be encouraging.
But both of you, thank you very much. Thank you. It's always a pleasure to actually have both sides of this particular discussion, so it is much appreciated. Political commentator Sunil Sharma and the Labour activist Aisha Ali Khan. Take care. Coming up, the Prime Minister could be just days away from handing the Chagos Islands back. Not back, really. Is it just over to Mauritius? So is Keir Starmer trying to rush a deal through before Trump returns to the White House? But there's more on this. Believe you me, it does get worse. And I'm going to be joined by Conservative peer Lord Kempsell, who has got the inside track on this devastating capitulation. But before that, first they recruited specialist incest nurses. Now we've got NHS corridor nurses as it struggles to battle yet another winter flu crisis. So is this a new low, do we think, for our health service? The NHS psychiatric nurse Julia Taylor joins me live and she's next.
Hello again. Very good evening to you. Here's your latest GB News weather forecast from the Met Office. Looking ahead to tomorrow, and there will be increasing amounts of sunshine from the northwest, and it is going to stay generally dry for most of us. Also, mostly dry through this evening and overnight because of the fact that we have high pressure to the south of us dominating the story. That being said, there's still a weak front across us, and that's bringing some thick cloud across central parts and some drizzly rain, particularly over the higher ground towards the west. There will be some clear skies, particularly likely over eastern parts of Scotland, northeast England, but for many it's a cloudy night, and with that then temperatures not dropping a huge amount. A pretty mild start to tomorrow morning, albeit across some eastern parts of Scotland where we have those clearer skies, it could be a touch chillier here, and there may even be a little bit of frost. The flip side of that though is there will be some brighter skies across eastern Scotland first thing tomorrow morning. Notice towards the far northwest there's some rain waiting to push its way in and some blustery winds in association with this, but across much of Scotland, northern England, quite a bit of cloud to start, a much sunnier start though for Northern Ireland. Lots of cloud across central, southern England and also Wales, and here it's going to be quite low in places, so some hill fog, some murky conditions, even a bit of drizzly rain, could be a little bit dank at times as we go through the morning. As we go into the afternoon, we are going to see increasing amounts of sunshine across much of Scotland, northern and western England and Wales, holding on to the grey, cloudy skies though across parts of the southeast. Temperatures again a little bit above average for the time of year across the north, generally getting into double figures, nearer normal towards the south. Looking ahead to Thursday, and again it's a bit of a northwest-southeast split when it comes to cloud amounts, so staying cloudy and grey towards the southeast, most places having another largely dry day though. And the mostly dry weather continues as we go through the end of the week and into the weekend, but it is going to be pretty cloudy for most of us, and we're going to see our temperatures dropping as well. Enjoy the rest of your evening. Bye-bye.
Join me, Camilla Tominey, for a frank and honest discussion with those in power that cuts through the spin and gets to the heart of the issues shaping our nation.
You haven't confirmed that you want to stand as leader, but you haven't ruled it out either.
This report basically says that he's not fit to stand trial. Is he indecisive? Incompetent? I deliver the dose of reality Westminster needs. That's the Camilla Tominey Show at 9:30 every Sunday on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation, isn't it?
No,
Because the failure is...
You're
the failure is...
deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more. Whether it's breaking royal news, Will, please bring us up to date, or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons.
Very, very curious.
We bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back. Now, at 10:20, we're going to be hearing from a brave survivor of Britain's rape gang crisis. And I'd just like to say a massive thank you to everyone who has donated to my fundraiser for the Maggie Oliver Foundation. And thanks to you, we have hit an absolutely astonishing 257,000. In fact, I do think it's actually gone up now on my screen anyway to £261,000. So thank you so much. It's gofundme.com/stop grooming gangs. There's a QR code on your screen there. And like I said, later on, we're going to be hearing about the work that the Maggie Oliver Foundation does. And it's so heartwarming. I mean, it's not a shock in a way. The amount of money is a shock, but it's not a shock to me how much you guys care about the brave survivors and filling that void, I think, that has been so lacking for them. So thank you, everybody. gofundme.com/stop grooming gangs. But before we get to that, in a sign of just how much standards are slipping in the NHS, a North London hospital is now recruiting nurses to work 12-hour shifts, caring specifically for patients stuck in a corridor. Whittington Hospital in North London posted several adverts for registered nurses that describe the role specifically as corridor care. Just last week, several hospital trusts declared critical incidents. They struggled to battle a steep increase in flu cases. The advert for corridor nurses comes hot off the heels of NHS job ads specifically recruiting for midwives who specialise in genetic conditions caused by inbreeding. So are corridor nurses a new low for our health service? That's why I went out and asked patients outside a London hospital earlier today. Saying that sometimes patients are having to be treated in corridors because it's so busy, how would you feel if you had to be treated in a corridor, do you think?
I will not be happy.
Honestly, yes.
Well, we're spending how many millions a day on hotels? Put it into the NHS.
Absolutely disgusting. That's it.
Well, there you go. Not a lot of shades of grey there, to be fair. I'm joined now by the NHS psychiatric nurse, Julia Taylor. Julia, thank you very much. I was hoping that you might be able to give us a little bit of a flavour of what the reality is on the ground. I mean, I've got no doubt in my mind that no one wants to treat someone on a corridor, don't get me wrong. But what on earth is going on?
Well, there's a few answers to that, Patrick. And the first one, I'll say it again, I've said it before, it's the amount of people in our population. In the last, well, since 2010, for instance, to now, there's been an increase in 6.5 million people in the NHS. And some bright spark decided between 2010 and 2025, let's reduce the hospital beds by 23,189. That's on a normal day. At the moment, we have got people poorly with flu, and apparently there's 4 different pandemics going around. But at the end of the day, we know that this is happening. We know that this is going to happen. So why are we not planning for it in the first place? Also, social care beds. When people are ready to go home from hospital, if there's nowhere for them to go and they need a care package, they can't go home. There's 10,000 social care beds needed in this country on a daily basis, normally. That's a flavour of what's going on.
I mean, Julia, I've got just to say, sorry, I've got just some stuff here, right, which is that, like, we've got stroke victims apparently waiting sometimes 30 hours in a corridor. I mean, that's life and death, isn't it?
It's deplorable because it's not just life and death; it's a life and it's affecting the life. If a stroke victim isn't seen to straight away as fast as possible, remember the advert, fast. Face, etc. That was to get people in quickly. That is deplorable. I am embarrassed that the NHS has turned into this because prior to 2000, I'm not blaming just the Tories, mind. I must stress that. It's Labour as well. We're now, NHS, we are now tenants rather than landlords, and that costs an awful lot of money because of the private finance initiative. It was, the rot started in the NHS in 1997, and it's just got worse and worse and worse and worse ever since then. And it's embarrassing. I used to walk around with my NHS badge on, proud to be working in the NHS. Now it's a bit embarrassing.
Oh, well, I don't want you to. I mean, you do save lives, and I think, look, in all of this, it is. I don't want it to. There are NHS staff, I think, that sometimes I have criticised. I mean, like certain management levels, I think that's fair enough, to be honest with you, because we do have to question the way it's run sometimes. And I think as well, I did have a bit of an issue when certain people went on strike. I could understand that they probably weren't paid enough, but then there's a decision about if you walk off a ward, what's the consequence to that? So, you know, I don't want it to seem like, oh, this is doing down NHS staff. But I do look at it now, and people are terrified of getting ill and having to go into hospital. There are people with elderly relatives where they look at them, maybe they've had a fall or something, and they think, do I want to sit in A&E for 6 or 8 or 10 hours with a 90-year-old, or do we just try and manage this at home? And you think, we are all paying a lot for the NHS one way or another.
Exactly. We all pay taxes and we all pay for the NHS. And sadly, I hate to say this, I really do, but it reminds me, not that I was alive then, but when in the 1900s, when people were terrified to go to the workhouse, because that's what it was then. It feels to me like it's turned into the pauper service. I'm sorry. I love my job and I love what I do. And it upsets me greatly that we haven't got enough nurses, we haven't got enough beds, and the money's wasted.
Well, Julia, can I just say a massive thank you as ever for coming on. It always is a real pleasure to talk to you, and thank you so much for everything that you do. It's Julia Taylor there, who's an NHS psychiatric nurse. Thank you. A spokesman for the Whittington Health NHS Trust said it had been experiencing very significant pressure and corridor care was an absolute last resort. Now NHS England have been on, and they've said the NHS is facing unprecedented demand for services. But we remain clear that caring for patients in temporary spaces is not acceptable and should never be considered a standard, which does beg the question, why are you recruiting for specific corridor nurses then? But anyway, coming up at 10 p.m.
The electorate much while pouring the poison into their ear.
Well, there we go. The government's on the rocks tonight after Anti-Corruption Minister Tulip Sadiq has resigned. But did the Tories let the under-fire Chancellor Rachel Reeves off the hook earlier today? Surely they should have sent her packing. But first, the Prime Minister could be just days away from handing the Chagos Islands over to Mauritius. I'm going to have an interview shortly now with a man who's got the inside track. Stay tuned.
I hope it doesn't rain.
Don't worry about it.
It'll spoil our holiday.
Relax, we're totally covered.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
If you are searching for any winter sun, you'll find it in Iberia, but it's going to be breezy in the Canaries and there'll be further showers across much of Greece. Cyprus is looking fine and warmer than average for the time of year. This area of low pressure bringing some showery rain to the south of Italy and Sicily. Balearics, Spain, Portugal, mostly fine, plenty of sunshine, but an area of showers will approach here during Thursday and Friday, making it feel a little cooler.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Good afternoon, Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more. Whether it's breaking royal news, Will, please bring us up to date, or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons.
Very, very curious.
We bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
GB News Breakfast, every day from 6 a.m.
Lauren, let's start with this, shall we? How children's TV may be harming, not helping young minds.
Yeah, so this is an article in the Express today, a big double-page spread as a result of some new research in a new book that's coming out by a child psychologist, saying that children's television, and I think perhaps more importantly, the way that children consume television and video product now is perhaps not as healthy for them as we would hope it would be, and there's quite some distance from children's television of the past, of the sort of the Bagpuss and Clangers and Ivor the Engine era. And I think what's interesting about this is particularly the how children's television is consumed angle, because children are now put in front of screens significantly more often than they were, certainly when I think we were growing up. The content that they are consuming is not great for their brains and their learning and development, which Floella Benjamin of children's television fame is now leading a big crusade to say that some of this is really, really bad for children.
These days, they're not watching the TV that we all watched when we were growing up. They're not even watching GB News in the morning.
What are they thinking?
Would you believe it? But they are watching this absolute drivel all day long on YouTube, and because obviously all our TVs are now connected to the internet, or they're getting TikTok on their TV. It's not even, so they don't even necessarily have to have smartphones or iPads. They can just watch this stuff on TV, and it is rubbish. They are watching it and they're obsessed with it. Oh God, Skibbity Toilet or something. Have you heard of this?
No.
No? Well, you'll have viewers who have got who are parents of sort of 13-year-olds, and this Skibbity Toilet thing is, they're all obsessed with it, and this is a really annoying sort of theme tune or thing that they sing at you.
GB News, the People's Channel.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK.
We're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
I'm Nana Akua. This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Patrick Christys tonight. I just start again now by saying a massive thank you to everyone who's donated to my fundraiser for the Maggie Oliver Foundation. It's not just creeping up, it's steaming up, isn't it? You can go to gofundme.com/stop grouping gangs. There's a QR code on your screen there. Last time I looked, it was over 260 grand, and at 20 past 10, we're going to be hearing from a brave survivor to tell you exactly what the Maggie Oliver Foundation does. Thank you for showing so many people that you do care about those vulnerable, predominantly young working-class white girls. Thank you very much. much. But first, rumours are swirling tonight that the government is on the brink of signing a deal with Mauritius over the Chagos Islands. A source close to the Mauritian government told The Telegraph that we've reached an agreement, apparently. Not that it's been spoken about in Parliament, of course. That's despite the Prime Minister's spokesperson claiming this afternoon that there were no updates on the talks. The deal would, of course, come just days before Trump's inauguration. It's like they're almost trying to rush it through, isn't it? And under the pact, the UK taxpayers, we would be paying £9 billion for the privilege of parting with our sovereign territory. But somehow this story gets worse. And here to tell you exactly how is Conservative peer Lord Kempsall. Thank you very much for joining us. It's got worse, hasn't it?
That's right, Patrick. I've been looking at this issue since about July of last year and trying to follow exactly what the government's doing. Maybe we should take a step back and talk about the whole topic, because it's quite a detailed area. What's actually happening is there is a British overseas territory called British Indian Ocean Territory, sometimes called the Chagos Islands. It's an archipelago, a group of 60 islands in the Indian Ocean. At the moment, the UK has sovereignty over that territory. It's not part of the UK, but it's part of our overseas territories like the Falkland Islands or Gibraltar. And recently, the government has entered into a series of really intense and rapid negotiations with Mauritius, which claims sovereignty over that territory. And what we think is happening at the moment is tomorrow, as soon as tomorrow morning, it might be the case that the UK is going to agree to cede sovereignty of that territory to Mauritius. And this is really, really bad. It's to be objected on so many bases, but there's a hugely important one at the top of the list why we're opposing this. The first is security, because on that territory there's a very important US-UK military base called Diego Garcia on the biggest island, and it's where the US currently stations a lot of its long-range bombers. It's a UK base, but we allow the US to use it, and that's why Labour is trying to rush this deal through, many people think, before Donald Trump's inauguration next week.
And well, if there was one saving grace to this, it was the fact that we might have at least kept this for 99 years. So we were, of course, paying for that privilege. But you seem to think that's not true anymore.
It's not known, and one of the reasons why it's not known is because the government is undertaking these negotiations in secret. So I've been asking multiple questions in Parliament, trying to get the details of what's happening here. As a British overseas territory, parliamentarians have the right, in my view, to examine what the government's doing and to hold it to account before it decides to cede any UK sovereign territory to third countries. Now, on the matter of the costs that you raise, it's scandalous that the UK taxpayer is being asked to pay what will be a total of £9 billion over 99 years, £90 million a year, to the Mauritian government for sovereign territory, for a lease of sovereign territory that the UK already is sovereign over. The UK government should be spending this money on the NHS, on its other domestic priorities. We all know that the fiscal rules are being squeezed, that Rachel Reeves has set. If I were the Chancellor of the Exchequer, the last thing I would want to do would be to be asked by David Lammy to spend this money when there are so many other more pressing matters for it to be spent on.
Is this 99-year issue? I mean, I was hearing some rumours say it might actually just be 50 years.
Unfortunately, we don't know what the terms of the lease will be because the negotiations are so shrouded in secrecy, and we've been trying to get those details. But whatever the terms of the lease are, it's not going to be sufficient because there's a very important issue here that hasn't been properly taken into account by the UK government, and that's the views of Chagosians themselves, who were displaced from British Indian Ocean Territory in the late 1960s and early 1970s by the UK government. The UK has already apologised for that before, and it's made a number of payments to help Chagosians resettle.
Is there something else potentially, which is this government's worrying desire to appease the Chinese? I mean, we saw Rachel Reeves off to China recently. We've seen Ed Miliband, who appears not to care about the fact that the Chinese might be able to turn our wind turbines off, against the advice of MI6, ploughing ahead regardless. And now this base here, well, realistically, all right, we might be technically giving it over to Mauritius, but it's the Chinese, it ultimately, isn't it?
it?
Yes, it matters because in the Indo-Pacific there is a great power conflict going on between China and the West. So in the backyard of British Indian Ocean territory, there are disputes all the time between India, China, the US, the UK and Western powers over who has control, who has hegemony in that region. And British Indian Ocean territory, the base in Diego Garcia, is particularly at risk from Chinese espionage. At the moment, there's a marine exclusion zone around the islands, which the Chinese find it very difficult to enter. They also, if the UK government cedes this territory to Mauritius, I'm pretty sure that China will claim an attempt to put their own forces on side of the archipelago.
Maybe 6:30 a.m. tomorrow, it could have been signed, sealed and delivered, as it were. So, look, thank you very much, Lord Council. Great to have you on. I hope to have you back on again very, very soon. Right, look, thank you very much, everybody, for the first hour. When I come back, we're going to be talking about reeds on the rocks, tulip has wilted. Oh, and yes, we're going to be talking to a brave survivor of Britain's rape gang epidemic. Stay tuned.
Heavy showers first thing will be followed by a warm, cosy day. Boxed boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello again. Very good evening to you. Here's your latest GB News weather forecast from the Met Office. Looking ahead to tomorrow, and there will be increasing amounts of sunshine from the northwest, and it is going to stay generally dry for most of us. Also, mostly dry through this evening and overnight because of the fact that we have high pressure to the south of us dominating the story. That being said, there's still a weak front across us, and that's bringing some thick cloud across central parts and some drizzly rain, particularly over the higher ground towards the west. There will be some clear skies, particularly over eastern parts of Scotland, northeast England, but for many it's a cloudy night, and with that then temperatures not dropping a huge amount. A pretty mild start to tomorrow morning, albeit across some eastern parts of Scotland where we have those clearer skies it could be a touch chillier here, and there may even be a little bit of frost. The flip side of that though is there will be some brighter skies across eastern Scotland first thing tomorrow morning. Notice towards the far northwest there's some rain waiting to push its way in and some blustery winds in association with this, but across much of Scotland, northern England, quite a bit of cloud to start, a much sunnier start though for Northern Ireland. Lots of cloud across central, southern England and also Wales, and here it's going to be quite low in places, so some hill fog, some murky conditions, even a bit of drizzly rain, could be a little bit dank at times as we go through the morning. As we go into the afternoon, we are going to see increasing amounts of sunshine across much of Scotland, northern and western England and Wales, holding on to the grey, cloudy skies though across parts of the southeast. Temperatures again a little bit above average for the time of year across the north, generally getting into double figures, nearer normal towards the south. Looking ahead to Thursday, and again it's a bit of a northwest-southeast split when it comes to cloud amounts, so staying cloudy and grey towards the southeast, most places having another largely dry day though. And the mostly dry weather continues as we go through the end of the week and into the weekend, but it is going to be pretty cloudy for most of us, and we're going to see our temperatures dropping as well. Enjoy the rest of your evening. Bye-bye.
Expect a warm front, moving from the kitchen right through to the rest of the house. Boxed boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Don't miss your chance to win our biggest cash prize ever, an incredible £50,000. That's tax-free cash to spend on anything you like this year. What would you spend it on? £50,000 could buy those treats you've always dreamed of having. And just one entry into the Great British Giveaway really could make £50,000 cash all yours. For another chance to win, text cash to 63232. One entry costs £2 plus one standard network rate message. Or text bonus to 63232. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start from just £2. You can call 0903 681 3232. Calls cost £2 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB10 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 6 p.m. on the 31st of January. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
I'm Michael Portillo. This is GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, you didn't say that, though.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
I'm Christopher Hope. From pop stars to politicians, I'll interview anybody in a pub who's got a political opinion. Join me every Friday on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube or gbnews.com, or wherever you get your podcasts. This is GB News, the People's Channel.
I'm Stephen Dixon, and thanks for joining us on GB News, Britain's news channel.
It's 10 p.m. I'm Patrick Christys. Tonight,
every penny we get will be used to help victims and survivors to be heard and to fight for justice in any way that we can. And I give you my word for that.
a massive thank you, everyone. You have now raised more than £260,000 for the Maggie Oliver Foundation to show those victims and survivors of Britain's rape gang epidemic that you really care. You can go to gofundme.com/stopgroominggangs now to donate, and we're going to be hearing from this brave survivor very shortly.
Abuse were facilitated by a woman to start with, and then it went on to basically being trafficked, abused and raped by gangs of men.
In other news tonight, two-thirds of illegal immigrants with ankle tags have cut them off and they're now on the run. Is detention the only answer? Also,
is the Hamlet of our time. They promised the electorate much while pouring the poison into their ear. To go or not to go, that is now a question.
Rachel Reeves laughs as she makes you poorer.
I invite you all to join this government of service.
And Keir Starmer's anti-corruption minister has resigned amid a huge corruption row.
Get help from the Welsh Refugee Council by having English lessons and getting £40 per week.
The Welsh Refugee Council stands accused of using schoolgirls to advertise Wales to illegal immigrants. I've got all of tomorrow's newspaper front pages tonight with columnist and broadcaster Esther Krakow, GB News superstar Alex Armstrong and journalist Jonathan Liss. Oh, and can you tell me, please, what's going on here? And can anyone tell me what is wrong with this pizza, OK? What's wrong with it? Someone tell me, please. Someone... I want to tell me what's wrong with it. OK. All right, get ready, Britain, here we go. Oh. How long before Rachel Reeves hears these words?
You're fired.
Next.
Patrick, thank you very much indeed. While he takes a sip of water, much needed, let's turn to the top stories. And apologies if you can't quite hear me. Rachel Reeves has faced backlash in the Commons today over market turmoil and her handling of the economy after a trip to China sparked outrage. Well, however, Reeves defended her visit, highlighting agreements reached with the world's second largest economic power.
The opportunity to make working people off by making Britain better off. That is the mandate that this government has, and this is what we will deliver.
Well, that comes after the pound slumped to a 14-month low and borrowing costs have hit a 27-year high. Businesses are also warning that tax hikes are stifling growth. Shadow Chancellor Mel Strive, though, has said it's a crisis made in Downing Street and accused the government of breaking promises and crushing business confidence.
To go or not to go, that is now a question. The Prime Minister will be damned if he does, but he will surely be damned if he does not. The British people deserve better.
Chancellor of the Exchequer.
Treasury Minister Tulip Siddiq has resigned today after being named in a corruption probe in Bangladesh, where her family is accused of embezzling almost £4 billion. Siddiq, who referred herself to the Prime Minister's standards advisor, was cleared of breaching the ministerial code, but said staying on would distract from government work. Keir Starmer thanked her for her service, but Tory leader Kemi Badenoch accused the Prime Minister of dither and delay. And the Liberal Democrats added that voters expect better from the government. The chair of the Criminal Cases Review Commission has tonight quit, reportedly, after intense criticism over the handling of the Andrew Malkinson case. Helen Pitcher resigned, saying she was made a scapegoat. But Mr Malkinson, who spent 17 years in jail for a crime he didn't commit, called her statement shameless. Ministers had already started the rare process of advising the King to remove her following a damning report into the agency's failures. And despite her resignation, Mr Malkinson says the CCRC's leadership needs a complete overhaul. An interim chair will now lead a full review into the Commission's operations. And rental reforms are a step closer to becoming law after MPs backed the Renters' Rights Bill. The proposals include banning no-fault evictions, stopping tenancy bidding wars and limiting advance rent demands to 1 month. The bill passed the Commons by 440 votes to 111 and now heads to the Lords, but critics warn it could push landlords out of the market and drive up rents. And hopes are rising for a ceasefire in Gaza as Israel and Hamas edge ever closer to a deal. US and Israeli sources have suggested this evening an agreement has been reached in principle to halt the war and exchange prisoners. Hamas is still holding 94 Israeli hostages, though Israel believes only 60 are still alive, while about 1,000 Palestinian prisoners could be freed in return. If finalised, it would mark the most significant breakthrough since fighting began in October 2023. Those are the latest headlines. I'll be back with you in an hour. Now, though, it's over to Patrick.
Good evening, everybody. Welcome along. Keir Starmer's... Oh, I'll start again. Sorry, it's that pizza. Keir Starmer's cabinet of dullards, duds and no-hopers is completely on the rocks. Rachel from Accounts has made Liz Truss look like the Oracle. The mortgages are about to go up. Your taxes have gone up. They're going to go up again. Farmers are crippled. Pensioners are freezing. The NHS is advertising for specialist corridor nurses. The pound is plummeting and the bond market is in turmoil. The Daily Star are polishing off their lettuce, ready to start the countdown clock for her inevitable sacking. She's on the brink of making an emergency budget. She's said to be depressed and unable to see a way out. Well, she's come back from China, our lame Peking duck of a chancellor, and when she's confronted by the mess she's made, by the fact that she's way out of her depth and heaping misery onto millions of you, the hard-working people, how does she react? Oh, she finds the whole thing absolutely hilarious.
Time. They promised the electorate much while pouring the poison into their ear. To go or not to go, that is now a question. The Prime Minister will be damned if he does, but he will surely be damned if he does not.
Well, I'm glad she finds it funny, because our world is laughing at us now. We're about to sign the Chagos Islands off to Mauritius. We're paying them £9 billion for the privilege in what has been described as the worst foreign policy decision since the appeasement of Hitler. There's talk that those islands could be in China's control within the next 55 years, not the 99 that we thought. Reeves has come back from meeting her handlers, the Chinese government, clutching her £600 million deal with Beijing, which will get over 5 years. I mean, will that even cover our costs for illegal immigrants for 1 year? Probably not. Red Ed Miliband has been told by the Bank of England that his net zero lunacy is driving inflation and making our bills go up, and that letting China supply our wind farms is a monumental national security risk. He doesn't care, but then again, his dad was a communist, so maybe he's honouring his father's memory. Starmer's anti-corruption minister, Tulip Siddiq, has resigned today amid a monumental corruption row, both here and actually in Bangladesh. She denies any and all wrongdoing. But she has resigned, though, hasn't she? He's already lost his Transport Minister, Louise Haigh, because, well, she apparently failed to declare a previous conviction. Labour promised us economic growth.
Where previous governments have been unwilling to take the difficult decisions to deliver growth or have waited too long to act, I will not hesitate. Growth was the Labour Party's mission in opposition. It is now our national mission. There is no time to waste.
Painful, isn't it? What have we got? Stagflation. And now Rachel Reeves has a choice. Cut public services or hike your taxes. Well, Chairman Mao and Jeremy Corbyn's right-hand man, John McDonnell, has told her that cutting public services will be political suicide. So we all know which way she's going to go, don't we? The BBC are doing their best to go into bat for Labour, which is hardly a surprise given that I reckon 99% of their staff voted for them. Reading that headline, there it is, Starmer and Reeves navigate tricky economic backdrop. You'd be forgiven for thinking they'd sorted the whole thing out, wouldn't you? Crisis over. That's when they actually bothered to report on it. A few days ago, they decided that Britain's economic disaster wasn't worth mentioning in their news bulletins. They've also been helped out by Mel Stride, the Shadow Chancellor, who is presumably so satisfied with opposition that he can't even bring himself to call for Reeves to go.
When it comes to Rachel Reeves, then, are you calling for her resignation?
I think there are serious questions around the judgments that Rachel Reeves is making.
Are you calling for her to resign?
Look, those are matters for the Prime Minister. They're not.
Just say yes, mate. Just say yes. Is it any wonder that Reform are now the opposition in the polls? Their 5 MPs have more business experience than the entire Labour cabinet put together. There's only so much longer we can keep hearing this.
Left a £22 billion black hole.
The government has inherited a £22 billion black hole in the public finances.
We have inherited a projected overspend of £22 billion.
Before the entire British public starts wanting Rachel Reeves to hear this.
You're fired.
Let's get our thoughts from our panel this evening. We have got columnist and broadcaster Esther Krakow. We have also got GB News superstar Alex Armstrong. And we are joined by journalist Jonathan Less. I mean, Esther, look, she's absolutely ballsed it up, hasn't she? Look at where we are now. Seriously, Rachel from accounts standing there, back from China, our lame peeking duck of a chancellor, there to tell us that actually everything's going to be fine and laughing at it.
Tell me what you really think.
Oh.
I mean, to be honest, I don't really see much point of her going to China. That deal was laughable. She might as well literally not have gone. That's what the NHS spends in a few hours. What she got, these investment deals she got from China for a year. Look, I think the markets being jittery is not it's not necessarily just. It's not just a reaction to Rachel Reeves, but she has her budget has added to it. So the markets are saying that, look, they can see that we're not addressing the underlying structural issues of the British economy, which is we are living above our means. And so this is why she's saying she has to take a difficult decision whether raise taxes or cut spending. Well, you can't raise taxes any more than you have now because you're already seeing businesses, entrepreneurs fleeing. We've not sorted out the energy crisis. Thankfully, Ed Miliband is seeing to it that we maintain to have the highest energy prices in the developed world. So really, she has no choice but to cut spending. The question is, how is she going to do it? She's talking about cutting civil service, disability benefits, but is that enough?
Her credibility is gone. Her credibility has been shot.
She didn't have much to begin with.
Before the election, we were hearing about how she passed the boardroom sniff test, whatever that means, which obviously in itself sounds a bit weird. And then it's turned out that what she put on her CV wasn't.
Well, she didn't have any. She's not actually an economist.
She worked in complaints, which is just as well as she'll be well used to.
But she's not an economist.
True. Yeah. And then now here we go. So some of the decisions she's made are whopping great big pay rises for the public sector, taking money away from pensioners. Farmers are knackered. She's put herself in an economic straitjacket, Alex.
Yeah, I mean, as I always call it, we're heading to a Reeves session, aren't we? I mean, she cannot get to grips with how to grow an economy. And it seems like this socialist agenda has taken over, this philosophy, rather than understanding you cannot tax and spend your way to growth. You need to cut back on the big state. We've gone from the fastest growing G7 economy within 6 months to the lowest likely to grow economy.
It was completely flatlining. It was completely anemic. When was the last time the economy posted any decent growth? It was, and also it depends on the measure. It depends on right, but it depends on the measure that you're using. By most accounts, the economy was still doing badly, just slightly less badly than it had been doing before. Look, Patrick, I'm not going to come here and say that the economy is doing brilliantly or that Labour is doing brilliantly, for that matter. There are lots of factors that are going on here. Lots of governments across Europe are seeing very, very high interest rates on borrowing at the moment, partly because of Donald Trump's threat of tariffs.
They too are not addressing their
But look, we can isolate the UK, or we can also. But I'm saying you can do that, or you can put it in the context of other countries. So France, Germany, Italy, the US, even they're all seeing increased rates on their borrowing.
You mentioned Italy, but Italy, even though its GDP to debt ratio is about 149% of its GDP, they can still borrow much cheaper than the UK, which highlights the fact that it's actually the structural issues of the British economy that is not being addressed. And this is why the markets are jittery, because they're looking at what Rachel Reeves has to say and said, OK, but you're living above your means and your energy prices...
Fine, that's not the structural issues of the economy, not Rachel Reeves.
No, but that is, she's the Chancellor.
But you can't completely change the system in 6 months. Sorry,
but business confidence is down to the Chancellor.
I was going to say, people with money,
that's true.
Millionaires are leaving because they hate her.
By the way, we're losing more millionaires than communist China, which is saying something.
Go on. Look, there are some things that I completely accept are her fault. I think that Labour was very foolish during the election campaign to kind of put itself into a corner with all the tax rise it wasn't going to make. And it should have been honest with the people that after 14 years of Conservative mismanagement, which had left public services on the floor, it needed money to rebuild that. And that money involves tax rises, and that, a Labour government would fairly, for a Labour government, put more on the rich. I think people would have accepted that, but because she kind of made out that private school VAT was the only tax she needed to raise to pay for this, and non-doms, that was dishonest, and she must have known that she needed money. No, I'm saying that Labour should have been more. I'm not saying that she is personally a liar. I'm saying that the Labour Party was not honest with the people.
Oh, come on! You really checkmate yourself there.
I'm just saying that.
Respect your ability. Seriously, no. Jonathan Liss is willing to go to places that very few other men will go when it comes to this.
That's what they say down the pub anyway.
Listen, right, if we're talking about people resigning, Liz Truss was forced out, Kwasi Kwarteng was forced out, and actual economic indicators that were better than the ones...
remind me what the pound was. Remind me what the pound was doing against the dollar in September 2022.
Let's give it some
time. It was the lowest since US independence.
In exactly the same way that they did under Liz Truss. But the reason why they reacted under Liz Truss is because she didn't account for all of the tax cuts that she was...
She didn't brief, actually. What happened is she didn't brief the public bodies. The markets reacted immediately
not accounting for it. What Rachel Reeves is doing is taking a deliberate long-term decision that looks to many investors like, actually, this is not a good bet.
Exactly.
Because we are living way beyond our means. Economic growth is nowhere to be found. And a lot of the structural issues that underpin the British economy are not being resolved. Yeah. Getting rid of Ed Miliband, I think, will be one way to actually...
Just get rid of all of them.
No, you know what?
Just get rid of all of them. Have a new government.
No, because
start again.
Because here's the thing. 90%, I kid you not, 90% of the current cabinet either studied PPE at Oxford or English or history at Cambridge. They all owe their careers to labour activism or trade unions. There's not a single business person between them. The rest are lawyers, a la Keir Starmer. I mean, I'm sorry, clearly the balance has tipped too much.
Well, that's the same with
me saying Rachel Reeves is not an economist, which, by the way, she's not, is not a criticism. I don't care if our Chancellor was someone who's run a successful pub, right? It's about being honest with the public about what your resume is.
How many of the last Chancellors were actually economists? I think that calling her Rachel for accounts...
She is an economist, that's what I'm saying.
I think she did work as an economist at the Bank of England.
She did not.
She did work as an economist at the Bank of England. I think she headed up the retail division at a bank after that, and she was posted to the UK Embassy in Washington as an economist as well.
Guido Fawkes reported that she was actually in customer service.
It should be Rachel from complaints.
Well, it should be Rachel from customer service. So it's actually
what did Boris Johnson ever run?
But you also,
a newspaper.
He did run the City of London.
You're not going to see a defence of Boris.
Well, yeah, he was the mayor of London for a bit, to be fair. But yes, anyway, when you also look at what else is going on in Keir Starmer's cabinet, I mean, look, I will say this: I thought Mel Stride let her off the hook today.
Yes, so
big time. big time. She was there for the taking. The Daily Star had the letters ready to go. There's a catalogue of things that Rachel Reeves could have done. She's just got back from China. She fled to China to avoid it. Mel Stride there. She's ready. She's ready. Just it's an open goal there. Tap it in. He starts quoting Hamlet.
Do you know what it is? Do you know what it is, Patrick?
They're all useless. They're all useless.
The Labour Party spent, like, 14 years, at least the last 4 they spent, calling for everyone to resign, constantly saying, you need to resign, you need to resign. I mean, how many resignation calls were there? It's unfathomable. And now I think the Tories are in this difficult position. They don't want to be looking as bad. I'd say play the same game. They've set the bar so low for resignations. Actually, both the Prime Minister and the Chancellor should...
Kenny Bain not technically did call for the Prime Minister's resignation a few weeks ago, so she's already paid that card.
Talking of resignations, obviously, may her political career rest in peace, of course, but Tulip Sadiq... It was the anti-corruption minister who denies any and all wrongdoing, but has miraculously resigned.
I think the Bangladeshi government launching these investigations, they know that all it takes is to launch an investigation to really tank her political career. I'm not saying whether she's guilty or not, but from what I'm seeing, a lot of the reason why she's resigned is not necessarily because obviously Parliament has found her guilty of anything. It's
she's not been found guilty.
You have an external government that's piling on the pressure, saying we're going to investigate this and we're going to add this and we're going to add that, and so.
You have a lot of schools that are, full disclosure, Tulip's a friend of mine, and I think that she...
You've been to one of our houses.
They're not her houses, are they, Patrick? I thought they were her auntie's houses.
Patrick, she's a good person.
You are terrible.
She has not been found guilty of any wrongdoing by Laurie Magnus, the Prime Minister's advisor on ethics. He said that she could have...
he did acknowledge that.
He acknowledged that she could have made... I can't remember what the wording was, that she could have maybe done it a little bit more...
So she wasn't as
forthcoming.
Yeah, exactly. She didn't acknowledge the actual person that gifted her that flat in King's Cross. He found that there were discrepancies with who she said gifted her that flat. But he said that's not an indication of wrongdoing, that's indication of...
I think the reality is, though, when you've been... I think it seems likely that her whole fiasco... And this is not the first time. She's been dragged through the Standards Board, but she has passed it, to be fair. But, it becomes a distraction for government.
It's a distraction for government. She's done the right look. No, we can't help who our family is. And, young people in London who might be offered a property...
She did just kind of show up at a meeting with Putin with her aunt. She just happened to be there.
I think that... if your aunt is, that happens to be the leader of a country, you'll go and spend time with your aunt. It's a very close family. So I think that the important thing is she hasn't been found guilty of any wrongdoing, but it was proving a distraction from the government, as she acknowledges in the letter. Right. And I think that she has a good career in front of her. I think this is not. It's not in the grand pantheon of big scandals. It's not among them.
No. She has resigned, though, nonetheless. And follows also Louise Haigh, who was given the boot, wasn't she?
That's right.
Well, that's even worse, because Keir Starmer knew about that, and he's like, it'll be fine.
And I thought that was stupid, actually, because Louise Haigh, it was something that it was a mistake that she'd made 11 years ago.
But where's the vetting
She did plead guilty.
Where's the vetting process?
The thing is, Jonathan, is that you held the Labour Party held the standards up so high for these things.
And here we are.
People had to resign.
Look, I don't think that either of those things are on the scale of Partygate, let's be honest.
No, they're worse.
No, Esther, come on.
They're worse.
What's a massive issue with the Bangladeshi government compared to a bit of cheese and wine? We can all agree with that. It's time now for our Watch Out, Tulip. Watch Out, Tulip. It's time now for the biggest and greatest Great British giveaway this year. It's your chance to win 50 grand in tax-free cash. Here's how you can win.
It's the biggest, greatest Great British giveaway so far, with your chance to win a spectacular £50,000 in tax-free cash. 2025 could be amazing, with plenty of treats, holidays and fun on the horizon. How would you enjoy that cash? £50,000 will make someone our biggest ever winner. For another chance to win £50,000 cash, text cash to 63232. One entry costs £2 plus one standard network rate message, or text bonus to 63232. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start from just £2. You can call 0903 681 3232. Calls cost £2 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB10 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrants must be 18 or over. Lines close at 6 p.m. on the 31st of January. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Welcome back. Now, coming up shortly, I'll have the very first look at tomorrow's newspaper front pages. I'm going to settle a massive problem once and for all. Does pineapple belong on a pizza? There's context to that. But first...
Abuse were facilitated by a woman to start with, and then it went on to basically being trafficked, abused and raped by gangs of men.
Thanks to your extraordinary generosity, the fundraiser for the Maggie Oliver Foundation has now hit more than £260,000. And it's stories like brave grooming gang survivor Elizabeth's that make your donations so important. Her story, along with what the Maggie Oliver Foundation really does to help people, is next. So you can go to gofundme.com/stop grooming gangs or hold your phone over that QR code there to donate. Thank you, everybody. Stay tuned.
If you want your news to be straight talking... This is a nightmare for the Conservatives again. Down to earth. It's not just Nottingham where this is happening, is it? And most importantly, honest. Hard-working, middle-class taxpayers, they'll get their book thrown at them. Then catch me, Martin Daubney, Monday to Friday, 3 till 6 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Thank you, Britain.
Thank you for watching.
Thank you for listening.
Thanks for subscribing.
Thank you for your support.
It's you that make us the People's Channel.
As we reflect on our journey so far, we're filled with immense gratitude.
You mean the world to us. We couldn't have reached this point without you.
As a very special thank you, we are giving you the chance to win one of 50 GB News thank you boxes. They're worth £50 each.
For full terms and conditions, and to enter, just go to gbnews.com/thank you.
GB News Breakfast, every day from 6 a.m.
Have you noticed that more and more stores are closing? Well, last year, apparently 13,000 stores closed for the last time on the high street.
Well, experts warn the worst is still to come for our small businesses.
Well, let's talk to retail expert Jeremy Baker. Good morning to you, Jeremy. How bad is it and what can be done?
Well, nothing can be done about it. Retail is like that. It's a boom and bust operation. So last year, let's say you had a shop and it was booming. This year, the consumer can just change their mind. They don't need to come back to your shop ever again.
Well, it is sad, Jeremy, because our high streets are the beating heart of our communities, aren't they? And for many people, I know I can relate to my high street, it is such a depressing sight, walking down there and seeing them all boarded up and closed down.
But how often do you walk down that boarded up high street? I think people move on to something else. The online world is very big, and lots of other things are very exciting. And so people, you know, the shop. I like to go to my GP in a shopping centre and get my tests done there rather than tramp off all the way to the GP, for example. And children could go to little schools in the high street. I've seen that happen already. So lots of things could happen to the high street. It could be much more social centre, much more kind of like pubs, coffee shops, all that. Charities. I don't see anything wrong with charities taking over. But the idea of the shop-centred high street finished, that's gone. Never coming back. Goodbye. It's not sad, it's just life.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
Welcome back to Patrick Christys tonight. Now, I've got all of tomorrow's newspaper front pages coming your way shortly, but first, I launched a fundraiser for the Maggie Oliver Foundation just over 24 hours ago. And already, your generosity has meant that our original target of £100,000 has been smashed. Now, by going to gofundme.com/stopgroominggangs, you have already raised, in fact, the actual figure is £268,000. Now, I'll just say again what I said last night, which is I know I did a fundraiser earlier on for Friends of the Elderly, and I really had not planned to do another one for quite a while. I did not want it to be overkill. But the time is now, when it comes to Britain's rape gang epidemic, the time is now, I felt, to show the survivors that you really cared, that Britain really cares. And there's a QR code on your screen there now if you want to go and donate. The Maggie Oliver Foundation does a huge amount of work to help the survivors of grooming gangs rebuild their lives, but also get justice. And that's vital, isn't it? We have now, because of your amazing donations, set the target at 300,000. Why not? Let's see how high this can go. Someone donated 10 grand earlier today, which is unbelievable. They did it anonymously, so thank you, whoever you are. But you can go to gofundme.com/stopgroominggangs. But it's because of stories like my next guest, the grooming gang survivor Elizabeth, that really, really matter. And her story is why your donations are so important. I spoke to Elizabeth a little bit earlier today. Well, Elizabeth, thank you very, very much for joining us here on the show. I was just hoping you could maybe start by telling our viewers and listeners a little bit about what you survived.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm an historic survivor from Rotherham. My abuse were facilitated by a woman to start with, and then it went on to basically being trafficked, abused and raped by gangs of men. And yeah, that's about it really.
And how long did that go on for?
4.5 years.
And how old were you at the time?
I was 14 when it started.
Gosh, I mean, that must have been absolutely awful, mustn't it?
Yeah.
How were you feeling at that point? You say you were let down, but on a personal level, that must have also had a huge impact on your physical and mental well-being.
Absolutely. You know, when I was going through it, I was isolated. Obviously, my father was arrested for trying to get me out of a property. The list is absolutely endless. You know, this weren't just something that was happening then. The shame and the blame and everything went on up until the Alexis J report came out into Rotherham. But it's quite crazy, really, because it had been normalised that much that really I didn't accept that I was a victim until the J report, which I was going on 28 years old.
Gosh. And we are, as I'm sure you're aware, trying to raise a bit of money for the Maggie Oliver Foundation and the work that they do. Now, I believe that you've come into contact with the Maggie Oliver Foundation or Maggie herself a little bit, and I just wondered if you might be able to tell our viewers and listeners a little bit about the kind of work that they do or why it's so important that Maggie does the work that she does.
I first met Maggie last year at a meeting in Rochdale with then the Prime Minister Rishi Sunak and Suella Braverman. From then on, I've had contact with Maggie Oliver, and she's always been really good with me. I think it's important that the work carries on because survivors and victims, or even people that are going through sexual abuse now, not if it's grooming, it covers quite a large range of different types of abuse. I think it's important because we haven't got anywhere to turn to. You know, you go through this process as a child, and then you have psychological problems all the way through, and it's important. You know, Rotherham hasn't got that. You know, so for something to be so national, it's really, really good.
And just listening to your story there is unbelievably heartbreaking and moving, and well done you for being in the position and getting yourself into the position where you are today, where you're able to talk about it and talk so eloquently about what must be incredibly difficult and incredibly traumatic. But I can't help but wonder how many tens of thousands of mostly young, vulnerable girls are still living through that kind of hell and need a place to go and need an outlet and need help. Do you think that there are still thousands of girls who do need to try and find a way out that maybe something like the Maggie Oliver Foundation could help them with?
Absolutely. Just from my own experience, you know, I do quite a lot within campaigning and things like that. But something that drives me to do that is giving a voice to the voiceless, you know. And I hope that I achieve that. And I know personally that's what Maggie's intentions are as well. And I think it's important because those voices are never heard.
And Maggie is someone who put her head above the parapet, actually, isn't she, at Greater Manchester Police? She's someone who spoke out when others didn't and wouldn't, and has continued to do so. And there is, I think, a huge amount of personal sacrifice attached to that, isn't there?
Absolutely, you know. It'd have been quite easy for Maggie to have ignored, like the rest of them, you know, pocketed her pension and walked away. But what you're seeing is something totally different. And for that, she needs respect for that, because you don't see it very often. But something also that I'm quite passionate about is to make changes, we need whistleblowers like Maggie, and we need to be giving them the confidence to do that, so there's no other victims.
Absolutely. Yeah.
It's a very, very brave thing to do.
Well, Elizabeth, thank you so much for making the time to talk to me tonight and to explain everything to our viewers and listeners. It is much appreciated. I would just like to say again, well done to yourself for finding yourself in the position that you're in today and being able to talk about something that must have just been absolutely crushing at the time. And I know that you coming on tonight is going to help to raise a load of money for the Maggie Oliver Foundation. It is going to help people. It is going to save lives. It is going to hopefully mean that fewer people are in a position like you unfortunately had to live through, and that people are unfortunately living through today. So, Elizabeth, I just want to say a massive thank you to you, and I wish you all the best going forward. So you take care.
You too.
Absolutely. Look, thank you very much, Elizabeth, for coming forward and being part of this show. Just to say, look, in the last 2 minutes, we've raised several more £1,000. You have raised several more £1,000. It's gone up above 270 grand now. It's gofundme.com/stop grooming. As Gordon's just chucked a tenner in, Frank's chucked a tenner in, Sukhvinder Singh has put 100 quid in, Catherine 25 quid, James 50 quid. Thank you, thank you, thank you, absolutely everybody. It really does mean the world. What Maggie does is help people who have been fundamentally let down, left, right and centre for decades. And this is what it's about. It is for the victims, it's for the survivors, and it's to show how much we care. Thank you so much. GoFundMe.com/stop grooming, gangs. Right, well, look, I've got a lot more coming your way as well, and I'm going to be, when I come back anyway, revealing a couple of things. All of tomorrow's newspaper front pages, and an astonishing story out of France, where a left-wing theatre decided that they were going to open their doors to allow illegal migrants to live there. Can you guess what happened next? Stay tuned.
Hello again. Very good evening to you. Here's your latest GB News weather forecast from the Met Office. Looking ahead to tomorrow, and there will be increasing amounts of sunshine from the northwest, and it is going to stay generally dry for most of us. Also, mostly dry through this evening and overnight because of the fact that we have high pressure to the south of us dominating the story. That being said, there's still a weak front across us, and that's bringing some thick cloud across central parts and some drizzly rain, particularly over the higher ground towards the west. There will be some clear skies, particularly over eastern parts of Scotland, northeast England, but for many it's a cloudy night, and with that then temperatures not dropping a huge amount. A pretty mild start to tomorrow morning, albeit across some eastern parts of Scotland where we have those clearer skies it could be a touch chillier here, and there may even be a little bit of frost. The flip side of that though is there will be some brighter skies across eastern Scotland first thing tomorrow morning. Notice towards the far northwest there's some rain waiting to push its way in and some blustery winds in association with this, but across much of Scotland, northern England England. Quite a bit of cloud to start, a much sunnier start though for Northern Ireland. Lots of cloud across central southern England and also Wales, and here it's going to be quite low in places, so some hill fog, some murky conditions, even a bit of drizzly rain. Could be a little bit dank at times as we go through the morning. As we go into the afternoon, we are going to see increasing amounts of sunshine across much of Scotland, northern and western England and Wales, holding on to the grey, cloudy skies though across parts of the southeast. Temperatures again a little bit above average for the time of year across the north, generally getting into double figures, nearer normal towards the south. Looking ahead to Thursday, and again, it's a bit of a northwest-southeast split when it comes to cloud amounts, so staying cloudy and grey towards the southeast, most places having another largely dry day though. And the mostly dry weather continues as we go through the end of the week and into the weekend, but it is going to be pretty cloudy for most of us, and we're going to see our temperatures dropping as well. Enjoy the rest of your evening. Bye-bye.
I'm Michael Portillo. This is GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Thank you, Britain.
Thank you for watching.
Thank you for listening.
Thanks for subscribing.
Thank you for your support.
It's you that make us the People's Channel.
As we reflect on our journey so far, we're filled with immense gratitude.
You mean the world to us. We couldn't have reached this point without you.
As a very special thank you, we are giving you the chance to win one of 50 GB News thank you boxes. They're worth £50 each.
For full terms and conditions, and to enter, just go to gbnews.com/thank you.
I'm Stephen Dixon, and thanks for joining us on GB News, Britain's news channel. Welcome back. I've got some front pages for you now. So let's start with the Daily Express, shall we? Kate's relief at being in remission from cancer. Just such a fantastic story. Well done to the Princess of Wales. Thank you so much for everyone sharing this story. It was a bit of good news earlier on today. Let's go to the Independent. We've got Treasury Minister Sadiq quits over corruption probes, despite denying all wrongdoing. The Metro, Kate's return to Cancer Hospital to say thank you, words of comfort and caring hugs on a poignant visit as she's announced that she's gone into remission. The Daily Telegraph, PM to pay damages to Gerry Adams. All right, here we go. Senior peers and IRA victims criticise unacceptable repealing of the Troubles Law. Gerry Adams is in line for a taxpayer-funded compensation because of Keir Starmer's human rights plans. Goodness gracious me. Let's go to The Guardian. Sadiq quits as minister after inquiry into property. Those are your front page. Just, I think, firstly, just a word on Catherine, really. I mean, that was actually good news, Alex, wasn't it? That she is now in remission. An uplifting story for the nation.
It's absolutely fantastic. Do you know what's really funny, Patrick, is that we were doing this show when the news broke about her getting cancer, hearing about her cancer for the first time. So it's just beautiful to see. And, you know, what a wonderful person. She's been out there today in the hospital talking to the patients, one of her first solo visits. So just great stuff, isn't it?
It is. No, it really is. It really is. So well done, Kate, and everyone, of course, who's been treating her as well and looking after her. And hopefully it can give a little bit of hope as well for everyone else who's out there struggling with cancer at the moment in Britain. But I just wanted to bring another story to our attention, really, which is an extraordinary story, actually, because South Wales police are investigating a man who criticised the Welsh Refugee Council on social media for a video that used schoolgirls to welcome refugees. Here is that video.
The Welsh Refugee Council. You can get help from the Welsh Refugee Council by having English lessons and getting £40 per week. And you have the opportunity to get a visa.
Yeah.
Whose idea was that?
Well, it was about Ukrainian refugees.
Well, in part, it was about Ukrainian refugees, but it's also about Wales becoming a country of sanctuary, and that does include anybody. But they say...
OK, but 12-year-old girls...
Yeah, I know.
Well, they edited the boy. I think they edited the boys out of it, and it looks like a school. It looks like a... No, fine, but it looks like a school video project, basically.
It was shared by the Welsh Refugee Council. So it was. Apparently, what they say is it was a school. So the Welsh Refugee Council apparently went into whatever school that was, did whatever they did.
Fired a lot of them because they don't have enough to do.
And then there was, off their own bat, apparently, some of the kids decided that they wanted to do this video, which is fair enough. But I believe it was then shared by the Welsh Refugee Council. So
this is a PR disaster. Nobody's children, male or female, should be the face of something like this. I'm not saying it's nefarious. I mean, it's just a PR disaster. It's terrible. Like, why? So the kids consented. Oh yeah, a 12-year-old consented to being on camera. Is that going to be people's excuses
we've blurred
in
their
court
faces.
for other things?
It's not been blurred, obviously.
We're going to be hearing that for other 12-year-olds that are consenting on film for other things? I mean, that's just moronic.
I think the timing of it, well, I get this.
Well, yeah.
It's moronic.
Well, the video, to be fair, has been out there for quite a long time, but obviously it's reared its head now, I think, in light of everything that's been going on. The idea of girls in school uniform, I think, talking about welcoming in certain people, I'm not sure that
Well, no, but it's just, what is the logic?
I mean, I get what Patrick's saying. It just doesn't feel like the timing is right. And even if the intention was good, you still got to note what's going on around you and go, is this quite the right look we want to be giving off? And also, frankly, I don't think these councils should be going into schools and telling kids about this and getting them to make content, even if it was for a school project.
You think that's all right, do you, basically?
I think everyone in this country pretty much was happy for this government and the last government to welcome Ukrainian refugees, and these kids, as part of a school project, as I understand it, were explaining to those refugees they'd be welcome in Wales. I don't see a problem with it at all.
Well, let me ask you this then: how would you feel if a Stop Refugees campaign went into a school and got kids to say we don't want refugees in this country? How would you feel when it's the other shoe on the foot?
I just don't see the analogy. I mean, this was a policy. This is not politicizing in the sense that there was no great political movement to say we shouldn't welcome any Ukrainian refugees.
No, I'm just saying the sentiment.
It wasn't being politicized.
It's clearly politicised at the moment.
But it wasn't filmed today. It wasn't filmed today.
But this is deeply inappropriate. Children shouldn't be getting involved in politics in general, but such contentious issues like this.
But it wasn't contentious. Welcoming Ukrainian refugees was not contentious.
Hold on. This is inappropriate. These are people's children. They shouldn't be the face of any government policy like this. It is not appropriate. I don't care whether they're for refugees or against it. If we're in a society that's not built around protecting children, we have failed. We're
But you've also got them saying things like, you can get a visa.
They don't know anything about a visa. They can't
Someone will take that out of context,
I'm sorry. It's just completely inappropriate. This is not about...
This doesn't feel right,
I
does
always say we've put politics above basic decency.
I'll read. So the Welsh Refugee Council's chief executive, Andrea Cleaver, has said the Welsh Refugee Council would like to clarify that we did not create the school video being circulated. While we were not involved in its production, we shared it as a positive example of young people championing messages of compassion and inclusion.
Because they're morons.
In 2023, the video was subsequently taken down by the school, as were our social media messages, which it had shared it. What is being circulated since are videos that people have taken of that video. Well, yeah, it's the video, though, isn't it? Anyway, yeah. OK, all right. I mean, look, hey, people can decide for themselves whether or not they think that's appropriate. Coming up... Yes, in a massive segue, yet again. Does pineapple belong on a pizza? There is context to this, and I'll be revealing all very soon, so stay tuned.
I forecast a perfect holiday in the sun.
Weather looking good then?
For sure, and no worries about our travel insurance.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GBNews Travel Destinations Forecast.
If you are searching for any winter sun, you'll find it in Iberia, but it's going to be breezy in the Canaries and there'll be further showers across much of Greece. Cyprus is looking fine and warmer than average for the time of year. This area of low pressure bringing some showery rain to the south of Italy and Sicily. Balearics, Spain, Portugal, mostly fine, plenty of sunshine, but an area of showers will approach here during Thursday and Friday, making it feel a little cooler.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GBNews Travel Destinations Forecast.
This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
And fashionistas are keen to see which new trends are set to hit the catwalk.
Well, our next guest is very well placed to share her predictions with us after being a contestant on hit ITV series Dress the Nation, as well as being an upcycling and sewing consultant.
Wow. Joining us now is Tendai Murewe. I want to go back to you appearing on the ITV Dress the Nation.
Right.
Tell us about that experience. What was that like?
Oh, that was one of my highlights as a upcycling consultant. I learned to sew in my kitchen 5 years ago. And then, during COVID, just making masks. Then the next thing I was on a Dress the Nation, making dresses in front of TV. Yeah, it was just incredible. I think we all had all these clothes that we have, but we don't know what to do with them. So mainly I started with men's jackets, taking off the sleeves and putting it like a print on.
I've tried this. I've tried taking off my sleeves before. I now have about 3 jackets with no sleeves. I never managed to put them back on.
You need to come to a workshop.
You
need to come to a workshop.
I need an upcycling consultant. 2025. What can we expect, fashion-wise?
I think bold prints are back. People are loving. I think you walk on the streets in frollals and oversized men's jackets.
So the exact opposite. We have drastically underperformed this morning. You're just saying not like us.
We just woke up this morning and thought it's winter, it's cold, it's grey.
Grey, miserable.
Is that not the way to go?
No, it is. It's still, I think because fashion is expressive. It's whatever you want to express yourself. You know?
GB News, the People's Channel.
Welcome back to Patrick Christys tonight. I've got 2 more front pages for you now. We start with the Daily Mail, another Starmer shambles, 1 lame duck down. Last night they had 2 lame ducks. They're saying one has gone, Tulip Sadiq's gone, Jonathan Lissie's mate, Tulip Sadiq's gone, and Rachel Rees is still there, so we'll wait and see how long that takes. The Times, Sadiq quits over links to Bangladesh, quotes, corruption. So there we go. So, yes, those are your front pages. Now, most of us can agree that having pineapple on a pizza is a controversial choice. But would you be willing to pay £100 for that privilege? Why do I ask this? Well, because one Norwich restaurant owner has taken his dislike for this controversial topping to new limits, asking his customers to put forward £100 if they dare to order a Hawaiian pizza. Is this a bold statement against bad taste? What he's saying is, it's an affront to his Italian heritage that you would come into his pizzeria and order pineapple on a pizza. So he's trying to price people out of the market.
Why doesn't he not just take it off the menu? It seems like the obvious answer.
I can't help but notice we've chosen not to name the restaurant. Should we not name the restaurant?
Name them.
Name them. Right. Anyway, yeah. But I have some pineapple pizza here. We ordered 3 of them. I've desecrated 2 of them already. Would anybody like some?
Yeah, I'm definitely going to have some. I'm just going to find a bit without pineapple on it. Here we go.
Oh, okay.
There we go.
No, but so do you think this is shrewd marketing?
So I'll be honest, I've never had pineapple pizza
Well,
because the concept offends me so much.
Why does it offend you? But like, why does it offend you in particular?
Do you know what? It's actually not that bad. I've never had it before.
So I'm going to give up my calories to something with pineapple and ham.
Well, pineapple's quite good for you. It's 1 of 5 a day. You've got tomato base. That's 2 of 5 a day.
Look, as a love of all things Italian, I love Italian food. I'm offended on behalf of the Italians, but on the other hand, I did grow up eating Hawaiians.
That's something that Love does quite well, being offended on other people's behalf.
I just think it's quite a shrewd bit of marketing, actually.
It's a bit cold.
I think you're right, because surely if he really hated it that much, he'd just take it off the menu, right?
Is it good?
It's actually not bad. I'm actually going to say it's OK. I might not shun it so much next time.
What do you think?
So apparently this is literally now. We'll have a handful of Italian viewers, right? And they will be screaming at their television sets.
Is that actually good, what you're eating?
I like it, but I will eat anything.
So it's not?
I'd eat this out of a bin. I wouldn't mind.
Are you a vulture?
No, it's not great for the diet, I have to be honest.
It's not very good for the diet, but I'll crack on with it. No, so £100 for a pineapple pizza. But I was thinking, someone is going to turn up and pay that, and is going to make them make it. Someone with more money than sense.
Yeah.
Is going to turn up and go, there you go. You know, you're going to have
And he's laughing.
Yeah, absolutely. No, fantastic.
Do you know what? I'm actually not... I used to be deadly opposed to that, but now I've tried it. It's not so bad, is it?
It's bloody good. Should we hear from Josh Harry about what on earth is coming up on headliners tonight? So there's quite a lot on your front pages at the moment. The Daily Mail is saying 1 lame duck down. Josh, will you be treating Tulip Sadiq's resignation with the respect it deserves?
Oh, of course. You know, it will be very, very respectful. Well, by the way, I licked all of those pizza slices. We have a lot of news coming up, including Kemi Badenoch, the reaction to her interview on this very channel, and how are asylum seekers supposedly going to get out of the hotels. We also have Kerry Marks and Lewis Schaefer, so we'll see if we still have a channel in the morning.
Absolutely, yes. Well, good luck, Josh, trying to keep all that in check. Josh Howie there with headliners. That's coming up next. I mean, it's been an interesting roller coaster of a show. Could I just finish by saying a massive thank you again to the nearly 10,000 of you who have donated to the Maggie Oliver Foundation GoFundMe. It's gofundme.com/stop grooming gangs. Tomorrow, again, we're going to be hearing from another brave survivor who tells her story about how Maggie helped her in her hour of need and what Maggie does for hundreds, if not thousands, of survivors up and down the country. It's gofundme.com/stop grooming gangs. The QR code is there. It's raised an astonishing amount of money. It's way over £270,000. And the point is this. The time is now to try to help when it comes to the grooming gang issue. It goes in and out of the news agenda. It's on the front pages 1 minute, it's the biggest news story of the day, and then it disappears. And sometimes it disappears for the best part of a year or 2 years, and then it comes back in. But the one constant in all of this are the victims and the survivors. So the donations that you give now will last a lifetime and it will save lives. And I want to thank you from the very bottom of my heart for all of you giving what you can. So it's gofundme.com/stop grooming gangs. Thank you to my wonderful panel this evening. And thank you to everybody at home or listening wherever you are. You take care and I'll see you tomorrow.
Despite the morning rain, it'll be a nice, warm, cosy day ahead. Boxed heat pumps, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello again. Very good evening to you. Here's your latest GB News weather forecast from the Met Office. Looking ahead to tomorrow, and there will be increasing amounts of sunshine from the northwest, and it is going to stay generally dry for most of us. Also, mostly dry through this evening and overnight because of the fact that we have high pressure to the south of us dominating the story. That being said, there's still a weak front across us, and that's bringing some thick cloud across central parts and some drizzly rain, particularly over the higher ground towards the west. There will be some clear skies, particularly over eastern parts of Scotland, northeast England, but for many it's a cloudy night, and with that then temperatures not dropping a huge amount. A pretty mild start to tomorrow morning, albeit across some eastern parts of Scotland where we have those clearer skies it could be a touch chillier here, and there may even be a little bit of frost. The flip side of that though is there will be some brighter skies across eastern Scotland first thing tomorrow morning. Notice towards the far northwest there's some rain waiting to push its way in and some blustery winds in association with this, but across much of Scotland, northern England, quite a bit of cloud to start, a much sunnier start though for Northern Ireland. Lots of cloud across central southern England and also Wales, and here it's going to be quite low in places, so some hill fog, some murky conditions, even a bit of drizzly rain, could be a little bit dank at times as we go through the morning. As we go into the afternoon, we are going to see increasing amounts of sunshine across much of Scotland, northern and western England and Wales, holding on to the grey, cloudy skies though across parts of the southeast. Temperatures again a little bit above average for the time of year across the north, generally getting into double figures, nearer normal towards the south. Looking ahead to Thursday, and again it's a bit of a northwest-southeast split when it comes to cloud amounts, so staying cloudy and grey towards the southeast, most places having another largely dry day though. And the mostly dry weather continues as we go through the end of the week and into the weekend, but it is going to be pretty cloudy for most of us, and we're going to see our temperatures dropping as well. Enjoy the rest of your evening. Bye-bye.
There will be a light breeze in the morning, leading to a warm front. Boxed heat pumps, sponsors of weather on GB News.
You could be joining the Great British Giveaway list of winners with your chance to grab a fantastic £50,000 in tax-free cash.
Hi, I'm Angela from Wigan and I won £30,000 with the Great British Giveaway. I'd say to people who want to enter or are wondering whether to enter to do it, it happens to people like me.
For another chance to win, text cash to 63232. One entry costs £2 plus one standard network rate message, or text bonus to 63232. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start from just £2. You can call 0903 681 3232. Calls cost £2 plus your network access charge, or post your name and number to GB10 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 6 p.m. on the 31st of January. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
And fashionistas are keen to see which new trends are set to hit the catwalk.
Well, our next guest is very well placed to share her predictions with us after being a contestant on hit ITV series Dress the Nation, as well as being an upcycling and sewing consultant.
Wow. Joining us now is Tendai Mirewe. I want to go back to you appearing on the ITV Dress the Nation.
Right.
Tell us about that experience. What was that like?
Oh, that was one of my highlights as a upcycling consultant. I learned to sew in my kitchen 5 years ago. And then, during COVID, just making masks. Then the next thing I was on a Dress the Nation, making dresses in front of TV. Yeah, it was just incredible. I think we all had all these clothes that we have, but we don't know what to do with them. So mainly I started with men's jackets, taking off the sleeves and putting it like a print on.
I've tried this. I've tried taking off my sleeves before. I now have about 3 jackets with no sleeves. I never managed to put them back on.
You need to come to a workshop.
You
need to come to a workshop.
I need an upcycling consultant. 2025. What can we expect, fashion-wise?
I think bold prints are back. People are loving. I think you walk on the streets in frollals and oversized men's jackets.
So the exact opposite. We have drastically underperformed this morning. You're just saying not like us.
We just woke up this morning and thought it's winter, it's cold, it's grey.
Grey, miserable.
Is that not the way to go?
No, it is. It's still, I think because fashion is expressive. It's whatever you want to express yourself.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation, because the failure is
You're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff.
Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood.
So join me on Jubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Hello, it's 11 o'clock, which means it's time for tomorrow's newspapers. Tonight, join us over the next hour to find out who is coming after Kemi Badenoch, who is accusing Brits of being lazy, and will Cornwall ever get their freedom? I'm Josh Howie, and tonight's comedians are Kerry Marks and Lewis Schaefer. Yep, there they are. This is Headliners.